Alright. Hello guys, welcome to the Science Faculty Alumni Night session today. Just a quick introduction about MUISS. So MUISS stands for Monash University International Student Service. We are an independent division of Monash Student Association, which is MSA. MUISS represents and advocates for the rights and welfare of international students at Monash University, and this event is organized together with International Student Engagement, ISE. And for the next part, this is the timeline of today's session. Basically 3 components. The first one will be introduced by Hannah. So ISU team will introduce some really useful resources for all the students. The second component is the introduction about alumni. We're really fortunate to have Jasper and Audrey with us today. And afterwards, they'll share their tips and answer some questions live in the Q&A session. Just some housekeeping as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to type your questions in the Q&A box rather than the chat function, because we're gonna look at the Q&A box and answer all the questions there as well. And make sure you submit your questions in a respectful manner. If you have any feedback or comments during the session, feel free to scan the QR code in the bottom right corner, and then you'll also get into the $20 lucky draw of the session today. Cool. Then Hannah, whenever you're ready, feel free to unmute yourself. Do you want me to stop sharing? And
yeah, that would be perfect, and I'll pull the slides up. Thanks so much, Lisa.
No worries. Thank you, Hannah.
Okay, let me do this now. Can everybody see it okay, the presentation? Yeah, good. Okay, so as Alisa said, I'm Hannah and I'm from the International Student Engagement team at Monash, and I'm just going to quickly run through some really useful resources. A lot of them apply really in your second or even final year of study, things to start thinking about, start preparing, because often when you do get to that last year, it goes really fast. So I'll try to make it as broad as possible. If at any point you have questions during this, feel free to let me know, and I'm sure Lisa will alert us through the Q&A. So I'll just jump right in. So visa questions are super common. Now, obviously, it's quite a complicated situation right now with the borders. Just a word of warning, if you do consult an agent, please make sure that they're registered through what's called MARA, or the Migration Agents Registration Authority. The reason is you don't want to pay money for advice you don't need, and you also don't want to get incorrect information. That would be really bad for you. So just super important tip. We do normally run free visa information sessions. We've just wrapped up. We'll be running them again probably next year for those that are still staying on for further study. And I think MUISS runs them as well. So there's a lot of opportunities to get the visa information you need, at least initially, for free. So do look out for those. Graduation documents. So a lot of people, this is like obviously a very popular topic as well. A lot of people want to know, how do I get my graduation documents organized? What's happening with graduations? Again, this is something that is up in the air at the moment just because of the current situation. My number one suggestion to everyone that's watching is do check the COVID-19 fact sheet. You can just Google COVID-19 fact sheet Monash, or you can access it. And essentially it will tell you, it will have a section specifically on graduations, and it will tell you everything that's happening with that. Now, generally if the borders are open, people do use what's called the 6-week confirmation email after they've applied to graduate in order to get their family and friends to come here for the ceremony. Now, again, that's something that is obviously difficult right now with the borders being closed. It's very likely that you'll be applying for what's called in absentia, which is where you don't actually attend the ceremony, but you have all your documents and graduation related things posted to you wherever you live. So let's say you go back home, they're all sent to you. That said though, you can delay your graduation ceremony. So even let's say you course complete at the end of this year, You can even graduate much later than that. You can choose to go to a ceremony 1, 2, maybe even 3 years later. I graduated quite late from after course completing. So if that's something you want to do because you're really keen to have an actual ceremony, I would definitely send an ask.monash to the graduations team to find out, if is that okay? What are the options? Because I know a lot of people really cherish that graduations day. So just something to keep in mind, because a lot of people look forward to that when they're studying. Okay, so as I said, yeah, definitely sending a question through ask.monash is the best approach. You can also call Monash Connect, and of course there is the fact sheet. Now, this QR code that I've got up right now will take you straight to the fact sheet, so feel free to scan and save. Okay, now moving is a big topic, and a lot of people tend to move either to just in the middle of their study or obviously to go back home. Whatever your reason is for moving, I strongly urge you to check this link here. Where are we going? MRS. So the MRS off-campus accommodation resources are incredibly valuable to you. Please speak to them because they're trained legal tenancy advisors. So another thing that they can help you with that is a really big topic right now is rental reductions. A lot of people are worried about cost of living, particularly for those that are still in Melbourne at the moment. So rent reductions are available in certain circumstances, and they can help speak to your landlord for you to advocate a lower cost of rent. So please reach out to them. Just tracing back, for anyone that's in their final year, on top of speaking to MRS, I strongly recommend going to the final year website listed here. So it has a full checklist of everything you should think about, plus all the resources available for people really in their final year. I like to plan early, so personally, I recommend even looking at this towards the end of second year, so you kind of know what to expect, because you definitely don't have a lot of time to plan in that final year. So it's a super useful resource. Okay, and this is the finishing uni guide. So if you want to scan that, you can. It's super useful for anyone finishing uni. It's on the Monash website. It takes you through a checklist of what to do, as well as tips under all these key categories that you'd want to look at. Next step. So as I mentioned, for those that need the advice around rent reductions or rent financial support with their rent, you can, we'll send a PDF after this session, and you can look up the rent relief grants. If you need help with that, you can contact my team. Okay. Career resources. So this is, again, a really valuable resource. It's called joboutlook.gov.au. Essentially, it gives you a breakdown of every single job, the industry, the projections, the how much you are paid if you work in that job, the expected hours, the demographics. So it really gives you up-to-date data based on the job market in Australia. Now, obviously, because of the pandemic situation, the job market and its conditions are rapidly changing. So you may need to even reevaluate your plans, and rather than thinking of the next 1 or 2 years, think of what will be my career in 10 or 20 years. And not to intimidate you, but looking at where the future of the industry is going is obviously a super important thing to do, because things are moving quite quickly. On that note, if you do want to have a consultation about your career plans, Career Connect are offering 20-minute one-on-one consultations with any final year student at Monash. And as far as I know, there's no limit on how many of these you can request. They can take you through interview skills, key selection criteria, how to write a resume, everything you need. It is true that the job market is quite competitive now, so I would really recommend that you do anything that gives you an edge over other candidates. And this is something that would definitely help you with that. Just to wrap up, that's pretty much everything from me in terms of useful resources for people towards the end of their studies. I hope you have an amazing evening with these lovely people. I haven't met Jasper, but I'm sure he's wonderful, and I can definitely say that Audrey is an amazing alum, and you'll learn a lot from her. And that's it. I should stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Hannah.
You're so welcome.
The resources. I can't see any questions in Q&A or chat box, so I think it must be all the contents from your really detailed introduction make sense to everyone.
Thank you so much, Lisa, and thank you for being such a great moderator.
Thank you as well.
I wish everyone a wonderful night, and yeah, feel free to email the team if you ever need anything. I'll just send it as a chat.
Yeah, awesome. That'd be great. Thank you.
Oh, I should send it to everyone. 1 second, everyone. There you go. Oh, it's Monash, 1A. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks, Hannah. You too.
Bye.
Have a
Thank you, Hannah.
See ya. All right, cool. Now it comes to the second component of the event, which is the introduction of the alumni themselves. And yeah, Jasper, whenever you're ready, feel free to give us an insight into your experiences. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Lisa, and thank you guys for coming. So my name is Jasper. I was a Monash student all the way to this year, July, where I graduated. So I'm quite a fresh graduate. So while I was in university, I essentially studied Bachelor of Science, major in physiology, blah, blah, blah. So myself, I'm a Chinese. I was born and raised in China to somewhere around 13 years old, where I went to Singapore. And then I came to Melbourne in 2017, all the way to 2020, and now graduated, went back to Singapore to start working, partly because of the pandemic. So while I was studying in university, I was a St. John ambulance volunteer for 2 years. I've also gone through some internship, one of them being the Redefine Life Center internship as a transcriber and research assistant for a book on psychological safety. So that part I'll go into detail later, because this internship is actually, I've gotten it through university program. So this is an opportunity that you can take advantage of. So another internship I've done was in Singapore, where through my accumulation of experiences and skills in Monash University and in Melbourne in general, where I got this internship opportunity in Demand Auticon, which is a hearing aid company, where it sort of gives me a step in the door for the market that I'm really interested in. So in this case, it's medical device. So and then after that internship, which I completed in March, and then I went on to do my final semester. And then now after that, I spent roughly about roughly about 3-4 months applying jobs, gotten about 70, 80 rejections, and eventually landed a job as a medical representative at Abbott Medical, which is something I thought was unachievable for my level of experience, but thankfully, after some hard work, I was able to get in. So coming back to that internship at at Redefine Life Center, that was through I think it's called ICI 3920 or 30. I can't be sure which one it was, but this is the I think one of the internship program that sort of started me with in Melbourne job experience, sort of exposure in Melbourne. So this is something that you can probably take advantage of as well. So yeah, that's what I've got. If you've got any question, I'm more than happy to answer.
Awesome. Thanks, Jasper. And that's a lovely introduction about your experiences, and Jasper will definitely answer your questions in the Q&A session. So meanwhile, if you have any questions, feel free to type in that Q&A box. I'll just manually go to this section. Okay.
Is it okay if I share my screen?
Definitely. I'll stop sharing mine.
Awesome. Let me know whether it works.
Sorry, just a second. I see 2 Q&A questions. Since now it's not my time, so after Audrey's introduction, I'll answer them. Definitely, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Is it showing my slide?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, my name's Audrey. There's a picture of first year Audrey. I don't know how long ago, quite a while, 5-6 years ago. So I did my BSc at Monash. I double major in zoology and ecology conservation biology. which is probably quite visible from this photo. So this is my story, I guess. If it's moving, if my slides are moving, hold on a minute. Okay, that's second year Audrey, best time of her life. I graduated 3 years ago. Actually, I'm not gonna try and remember. So double major. After that, I knew that I really like to do research, so I continued on to do honors. So I actually graduated the second time from Monash. That's 1 year apart. And I did a research on birds, geographic variation, blah blah blah. You can just say birds museum and colors. After that, during my time at Monash, I was quite active in participating in university activities. So one of them was MUISS. I was part of MUISS for 3 whole years. I was also a science student ambassador. Other than internal volunteer, I enjoy volunteering a lot. So other than, these are all internal, so it's all in the university. But I also do volunteer for external organization. One of the most notable ones is Jane Goodall. So I actually met Jane Goodall when she came into Melbourne a couple of years ago. So I volunteered for the Jane Goodall Institute Australia. And I also volunteered for Melbourne Museum, which was what landed me my first job. So I worked at the Melbourne Museum a couple of months after my honors graduation, because I actually I wasn't sure whether my plan was to do a PhD then, but because of time constraints and application stuff and scholarships, I couldn't do it directly after honors. So I was actually looking for a job. And I actually went back to Indonesia, where I was from, for a bit before realizing I wanted to go back to Melbourne. I didn't get a job back then, like instantly, but I did continue on to do my volunteering from my previous volunteer engagements. And I actually got offered a job through that. It started off part-time and only a 3-month contract before it actually got extended into a year full-time. And that was me having fun at work with a stable job and money. That was until but as I said before, my plan was to do a PhD because I wanted to go into academia and research. So after that, I applied for a PhD and I actually got my scholarship application approved earlier this year at ANU. If anyone doesn't know ANU, it's the Australian National University in Canberra. So that is where I am now. That is my official, I don't have fun photos in my PhD yet. So that's actually just an official photo for my lab website. And yeah, that's sort of where I am. I'm technically in Melbourne now because of the lockdown, but yeah, that's pretty much it. And I will stop sharing.
That's awesome. Thanks, Audrey. Really lovely to know your experiences and those lovely photos as well. And thanks for your continuous contribution to MUISS, which is really lovely. Okay, cool. I'll share my screen. Just give me a second. Okay, cool. Yep, so keep sending questions in Q&A box. You can ask questions about career planning, study tips, interview tips, uni survival strategies, and any other extracurricular advice you want to gain from Jasper and Audrey. Just gonna quickly have a look at the Q&A chat. So yeah, so first question, how would you compare working life with university life?
All right, so Audrey, I'll go first, yeah? Yeah, so for me, the big difference between working life, university life is university, I have to say it's definitely the best 3 years of my life. Of course, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of things you can do to both promote yourself individually and professionally, so to be ready for the future. But I guess, so my interpretation of your question is you're probably more interested in the workload and how to conduct yourself between these two lives. So if that's correct, then I reckon in working life, in university life, you sort of responsible sort of for yourself and to complete your tasks and your degrees in time and to a level of standard that you hold yourself to. So that could be a credit or pass in general, or could be HD. You could be more trying to involve in volunteer life or a public office, university, etc., etc. But in working life, you're assigned a task that you're expected to complete in your role, right? So you're not just responsible for yourself, you're also responsible for the roles that you're in. And if you cannot achieve that, then of course there will be associated discussion and stress to that aspect. So this is something, I guess, in a way more stressful. So for me personally, that's the big difference, the most straightforward difference. But then again, if you're someone who sort of you're very interested in the role you're in, and you're very ambitious, and you hold yourself to a very high standard, and the role you're in, even though it might be very competitive and has a high refresh rate, shouldn't be a problem to you.
Yeah, all I can add is it really depends on like what specific part of working life / university life you're trying to compare. One of the biggest differences for me is you know, when you're doing university, you don't really have an exact schedule. At work, it's 9 to 5 every weekday, and I got tired. It was actually pretty tiring for when you just first started, because you're just not used to 9 to 5 days a week. But most of all, your social life is constrained to after work hours and weekends. And that's maybe something you're not used to in the beginning, especially if your friends are still at uni. That's what I felt like. A lot of them, if you want to meet up with people, it's a bit hard to sort of find the time. And other than that, you know, you need to make, you kind of think, oh, tomorrow's still a work day, so I can't really hang out with you tonight, stuff like that. But other than that, I think you just need time to settle in your workplace. That's how I felt in the beginning, because I'm an awkward person. It's a bit weird when you still don't know the people around you and like trying to find out who they are and them trying to find out who you are. And that's sort of the period where you're trying to find your place at work. And that's, I guess, it's similar to when you just started uni and trying to find friends.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that 100%. It's a bit like high school going to university.
Yeah, you
Transition.
kind of have to know who you're talking to and what they do.
It's a good question, but I reckon you don't have to stress too much about it because it's a transition essentially 99% of people have to go through.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. Thanks for the answers. So for the next one, cool. Thanks, Jasper, for answering that in advance. Yeah, you talk about you did your internship on student visa on holiday. Any more you want to add on to that, or are you happy for me to go to the next question?
Just want to specify that area. So for your working hour, I assume most people know this, but for your working hour, I think you can only do 20 hours per week or 40 hours per fortnight. So just something you should be aware of, no matter whether it's internship or part-time.
Cool. Thanks for that add-on. Next question. Did you work part-time during your university years? If so, what are the tips you would give for students looking for a part-time job?
So, well, Jasper, do you want to continue on your answer? Or?
So I didn't. So I think Audrey will probably be much more valuable in that aspect. I did not do part-time job while in university simply because it's a little bit troublesome, in my opinion, to do part-time job while having this 40-hour restriction and do something that sort of adds value to my future plan in medical device field, because it's pretty hard to find a job in that area, which I think one of the question also asks in that aspect. But anyway, and then the tips I would give for students looking for a part-time job, again, because of the lack of experience, I don't have too much value to add in that area. But from what I've gathered from my friends, it's that it is something of course, the work and study balance, it's very important. So a lot of people that have that difficulty eventually endured and able to come on top of it, and then actually give them a lot of value and skills going into a full-time job in the future. And they're very used to the stress, they're very used to time management. So whatever it is, I think it is a good practice. So yeah, that's all I can say.
Yeah, during university itself, I didn't have part-time jobs. I did take some casual jobs. However, I would say that I didn't technically apply for any of them. It's more like, as I said, I volunteer, and then usually an offer came about, and that's when I take on the casual job. So I guess my tips, especially now with COVID, and I think in general, anyway, and you'll hear this a lot in a lot of career seminars, that a lot of the job market is internal, like it's not actually advertised. So my tips is, and I think there will probably be questions on this, but stay in touch with the people you know, whether it's, if you take on an internship through uni, work integrated learning or whatever it's called now, keep in touch with whoever it was you were working with, your professional networks, your friends who have work, because then if they find an offer and they know that you're looking for something, then maybe you'll be the first name they think of to offer a job.
Yep, that's true. Thanks for that. All right, for the next question, is it difficult for international students to seek internships or work experience, as companies usually prioritize Australian citizens or residents?
All right. Okay. It's all about channel. It's very difficult to say. First of all, because I just don't have that much data to tell you. Second of all, it is something quite sensitive. So I can't really say to you definitively if that's the phenomenon. But there are channels. So for me, taking the FCI 3920 or 30, I can't remember which one it was, that gives me directly access to internship. But it is something to be aware of, because as international students, you have to pay for that unit as any other unit. So it is an expensive internship to take. So I think as university students, as an adult, actually, I think now that is the best time for you to build yourself up and build yourself an environment where you'll be successful. So that's when you go out of your way to speak to people, speak to faculty, speak to the units, and then lecturers that sort of interests you, that the topic of research, etc., sort of interests you. You got off your way and say if there's any opportunity you can work for them, or is there any work connection you can do, and then starting line for this kind of work, you will be doing things for free. Most of the time we'll be doing things for free or volunteering, but at least in my case and a lot of people that I know, this thing pays off marginally, pays off in a great value once you go for your full-time job in the future. And if you ever get that opportunity or have that possibility to get that opportunity, definitely go away if you to do it. As international students, you may have disadvantage because you are not a Australian citizens or residents, but also do know and do understand that you have the advantage of being multicultural, hopefully bilingual, even trilingual. And when you have that, even though specific individuals are different, you're sort of assumed that you're more flexible, you're more critical thinker, and you're more sort of open-minded. Even though, of course, this is a generalization, but know that that's your advantage. So that's all I should say. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really depends on your sector. I know, well, speaking from, zoology, ecology, environment, we don't have a lot of paid internships anyway. So it's, as Jasper said, a lot of it is just you making the effort to contact people, because you sometimes they don't put it up on their website. They might not even have a website. And one thing I could say, if you are looking for research work experience, email your lecturers and they'll definitely say, yeah, if you're interested, come volunteer for me at the lab. You'll just have to, as you don't get paid, but you get the experience. And I did a lot of volunteering during university through that.
Same here.
Yep, definitely. Cool. And for the next question, I think this is supposed to be directed to Jasper. How was your work transition from Australia to Singapore? Is there a big similarity or difference between Australian and overseas job market in your field?
Okay, good question. So my field is medical device. How's your transition from Australia to Singapore? So Australia, Singapore work cultures are very, very different. Australian work cultural, okay, this is just my personal opinion, a bit more laid back, a bit more liberal. And you can have sometimes, okay, this depends on specific cases, but it's a generalization that you tend to be able to have a very free, liberal, discussive relationship with your superiors and colleagues. Whereas in Singapore, it is more authoritarian in a way where tasks is assigned to you and you're expected to complete it, and discussion can be had in a limited but very respectful way. So this is the observation I've made, but the company I'm in is Abbott Medical. Abbott Medical is quite a sizable international company. So they are kind of neutralized in their area where they have this standard of discussion quality in their leadership. So I wouldn't bother myself too much about whether two countries have some distinctive differences in work culture, but rather than the actual company you're in. So don't sort of expand that problem, but more of just think about the company you're going to join. What's the work culture there like? What's the colleague there? What's the relationship dynamic? What's the leadership style? Even within Australia itself, two companies could have very, very different cultural in their respect. So that's what I would say. Don't bother about Australia and different to Singapore, but worried about the company you join in. What's the culture like?
Yeah, awesome. Anything you want to add on, Audrey? Because it's asking about like overseas job market in your field, like anything.
Can't say much, to be honest, because well, I almost became a teacher back home, but that's another story. Yeah, I can't say much to that than what Jasper has said.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that. So next one, what is the one thing you would say to students who intend to maximize their university life?
Okay, I think Audrey is a perfect example to demonstrate that. This is the first time meeting Audrey, but her presentation demonstrate that she's went out of her way to do a lot of things to prepare herself for full-time job market. So for me personally, I've also tried to prepare myself for full-time job life. So initially, you try to take on any volunteer opportunities that are quality, and also internship opportunity, and also leadership program. So that's something I was involved in. So I think this is called Science Futures Leaders for our science faculty. This is something that's very, very valuable in my opinion. It doesn't just train yourself to be to have leadership quality and to be able to exercise the leadership. It also gives you a very realistic, critical mindset going into job market. Of course, that opportunity is not available to every single people, because I think you can only get 30 to 40 people per cohort, but you should get that mindset sort of where you try to understand what full-time job is going to be like. And to maximum that in university life, the only way I think is, of course, to try and build your value based on that by extending your connection, by speaking to people who are in the authority position, by participating in all sorts of programs throughout a big variety of field to really get you an understanding in the society you're going to partake in.
Yeah, I would say that as a university student, one of the best things you have is freedom. And that's the freedom to choose what you use, what to spend your time on. And I don't mean that you have to spend all your free time working on or volunteering and not having fun. I think you have to find out what you enjoy in life, whether it's for the future as well, and just build on a skill set, I guess, of the things that you enjoy. So you don't just enjoy it, you're actually good at what it is you do. And I guess, there's a lot of volunteering opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities in general. It's just a matter of whether you put in the effort to find it. And really, you just enjoy your time, really. Just say, don't be afraid. Just say yes to things that you're interested in, even if you're you're not sure you can do it or not, because you'll learn. Yeah, don't be afraid to learn new things. And you might not like it, and that's okay, because at least now you know you don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, as an example, I was in St. John Ambulance, and treating patient, seeing patient, talking to patient, giving treatment was something, well, in that position, I realized I was very interested in. Then going on to my full-time job as medical representative in Abbott Medical, that job, 80% of the time, you're discussing, talking, and assisting surgeons in operation room, and talking to patient, doing diagnosis, etc. So these two, so you can see the link between these two positions, and I feel like I can get that full-time job 80% of the time. It's because of the St. John Ambulance experience I've had, and I very much enjoyed.
And you get to meet new friends as well, doing new stuff. So
yeah, connection.
Good.
Yeah, you get potential connection and friends along the line too.
Yeah, awesome. That's perfect. All right, next one. Any tips on building up a professional network while in lockdown?
Haha, I need tips. I mean, all I can say, there's a lot of, one of the best things about this lockdown is it's opened up international networking opportunities, at least from my side, because I'm doing research. There's a lot of international webinars now on people, like international researchers from the US and the Europe. They're opening up all these free webinars for you to watch, because it's all done through Zoom or whatever online thing it is. So it's a way, I guess, you can see what's happening out there. And there's a lot of networking, online networking events or workshops going on that's free and online. But another thing I can add is, I guess, if you're in science Twitter is a big thing. I know Twitter's not amazing, but it's one of the ways you can get in contact with people in the field, maybe, if you know someone. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to add, I think.
Yeah, so for me, it's just two things. First thing first, you have to understand that not just you, but a lot of people are also in the same position. So I'm sure there's definitely online group and community where people in the same position try to get together to extend their professional network. For me, my favorite would definitely be LinkedIn, but there are plenty, probably hundreds of channels where you can extend yours. So yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, thanks for that. So for the next question, would honors program be beneficial to build a working experience, especially for international students?
Well, to be honest, it really depends on where you see yourself in the future. Because I did honors because I like research, and that's sort of where I was planning what I plan to do in the future, going to the academia, which is why I'm taking up the steps that's needed, which is honors, PhD, work, whatever it could be. Honors itself, I think, is meaningful in the sense that you get to develop a lot of self-management and project management skills, a lot of soft skills, as people would like to say. I think it's you're basically doing independent research project for a whole entire year. You learn something out of it. Whether or not you need to do it or not, that would depend entirely on, as I said, where you're planning on doing, what you plan to do in the future. One thing I would say is you don't have to do honors directly after you graduate. So you can go and work for a year or two and then continue to do honors. I think there's a limit. I think it's 1 or 2 years after graduation. I'm not sure. And don't do honors just because you can't get a job and just decided to continue on to do your degree, because honors is quite intense. It's a year. It's basically a PhD in a year. I mean, a smaller project, but so I would say it's beneficial in the sense that you learn a lot of skills and you learn a lot about yourself as well, and whether or not you like research. But whether or not it's beneficial for you specifically will really depend on what you want to do with it. I would say though that in some workplaces it is considered like a plus point that you have honors, but it's usually not necessary. You can definitely gain the skills through work experience as well. It just depends.
Yeah, I don't have much to say after that.
Cool.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah, thanks for that. Next one, what do you reckon is the best way to get a job after you graduate?
All right. I think the best way to do it plainly is just through LinkedIn or through your connection in person. I think connection in person is definitely the best way to do it, right? But
No, I agree completely.
yeah. But that alone, it's just a very straightforward channel method, right? I think the absolute best way to get a job is how you build that environment for yourself to get the best job possible, and that starts definitely while you're in university. So get to know people, get a lot of experience, skills on how things are done, get to know how working environment cultures is sort of conducted, and then get yourself in the best position possible as early as possible. Have that plan. That will get you to the best job, even in a situation like right now.
Be brave enough to ask, I think. And I mean, not directly ask for a job, just ask whether you have any opportunities or here. Do you know anyone who might need some help? I'm free to volunteer, things like that. Email your tutors, your past I don't know, volunteering coordinators, internship coordinators. I actually did that. So yeah, I think, and if they don't have a job, they'll usually say, "Oh, I'll keep you in mind," as long as you have good rapport with them, of course. Like not some random person you've only met once or twice. That would be a bit different.
Yeah, agree. Thanks for that. Next one, I was unable to get an internship due to the pandemic this year. What's your advice for gaining the necessary skills for the workforce?
I think
think about it a bit.
What I can say is you don't need to do an internship or a volunteering to get the skills that's needed in the workforce. It just depends on how you see what it is you're doing. Because maybe, for example, if you work at a bubble tea shop and you want to go work in the hospital, you might not think that there's transferable skills, but you can say, oh, I've worked in a high pressure situation when there's so many customers and then you're suddenly backed up, or, oh, I've dealt with people through customer service before, and dealing with people is not an easy skill. And I think sometimes it's just the way you see things that make it seem like it's not like you don't have the skills. But I would say that you just need to gain experience somehow, but not through an internship. Maybe you can do there's a lot of digital volunteering, or get in touch with uni clubs, or maybe they need some help doing stuff. Maybe MUISS has got stuff that you can help with. I don't know. I think there's a lot of opportunities out there that you might be able to still do. It's never too late to start anything. That's something I can say.
Yeah. So just to add on what Audrey said, I think in this period of plateau, where you could go out of your way to go to a platform like LinkedIn Learning, where it's a lot of videos and workshops, tutorials on how to upskill yourself and get you prepared. And that could go anywhere from how to write a resume to how to use Excel, how to code, to how to behave yourself in a interpersonally sort of advantageous way in a work environment. So even though you might not be actively engaging to an actual workplace or workforce, you are in a way upskilling yourself to be prepared when the workforce eventually come back. So it's all about how you, in a difficult situation, maneuver yourself to get yourself in the best position.
And that's a skill as well.
Yeah, it's definitely multiple ways to get there, get where you want to be.
Yeah, so, that's really good advice. Yeah, learn coding. A lot of science jobs require some sort of coding and data analysis, and that's something you can do online for free.
Yep, 100% agree. Beautiful. All right, for the next question, if you could redo your uni years, what would you change and why?
Oh Lord, just do it. I would not do some units that I do
Yeah.
and do other units that I haven't done, to be honest. Yeah, I love my uni years.
Yeah, same. So I will probably visit the student council, sorry, student service more to sort of really plan out my degree a bit more. But honestly, right, it's a good question. But when you look back, I realize there are bad decisions, illogical decisions I've done, which led me to a lot of friends and good memories and things I would definitely not regret. Although the decision itself, technically speaking, at the time on hindsight, it is definitely not the best one to do. But I would just say go with your gut, be as prepared, as planned as possible. But when things already happened, enjoy it, know what you've gotten out of it, be positive about it. Yeah, just psychologically, don't put yourself down.
There's the only thing I would like to redo is some of my units because I want to do more science units. Yeah, too much fun.
Okay, next one. How necessary is a master degree or honors if you're not interested in a career in research? I know we touched on based on that a little bit. Anything you guys want to add on to that?
Yeah, I mean, really, I think the best person you can ask for advice for in this situation is your what do you call them? Is it unit coordinators, course coordinators? Because then they would be able to give you a discipline specific advice. For example, I know in psychology you need honors or masters to get certified or something like that, and it's really different with I don't know, microbiology. My friend had masters, but you can do fine with an honor. So I think the best way is to search for jobs in the discipline you're interested in and see whether they require that that specific degree. Because usually it'll just say work experience, and then you'll be like, oh, then it's not necessary, but maybe it's good to have the skill. So yeah, my recommendation, email your coordinator, someone in the field you're interested in, to see what they think.
So for me, I can give you a personal example. So I'm in the medical device field. I've always wanted to be in the business branch and strategy branch of medical device field or medicine field in general. So if you want to be in that field, and you want to reach to a point where you're senior enough, you're holding an important position, fits your ambitions, then there are two branches of masters that you want to do eventually. So first one, of course, you can choose to do a master degree that fits your job. So for me, I'm in the cardiac rhythm management branch. So if I want to extend my skills in that area, I might want to do a master degree in cardiology. But if that's not something I'm interested in, I more want to be the pure strategizing and human management side of things, then I definitely will want to have a master's in business management. So I think most people in that position where they're a manager in a business company, you want to have an MBA eventually through one way or another. So most quality managers I've met, even though they already exhibit a leadership quality before they've had master degrees, but eventually at some stage, they've gone to some institution to get their MBA nonetheless. That could go anywhere from Harvard University to Melbourne University or to Griffin University, things that are not so internationally well-known institutions. Eventually, I feel like if your ambitions is there, then that's something you want to do. But of course, you don't have to.
Yeah, I think if you're hesitating, don't rush into a decision to do another degree, because one thing you have to remember is you have to pay for it.
Yes.
And another thing is a lot of companies might sponsor you to do a master's when you're good enough in that. And when you're, as Jasper said, the higher you go, usually that's when you started leading a master's degree or something. And that's maybe, you might get sponsors from your company to do it. And
oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Actually, that's very true. A lot of times you get, you get sponsorship for it, and that's something you can ask while in the interview. Actually, that shows that you're looking ahead, you're looking in the future, and then you're looking to upskill yourself and to be more important to the company you're going to work for. Even though you might not be in that position yet, it shows that you're thinking ahead and you're someone who's focused on the future.
Lovely. Right, for the next question, what are the job scopes for science students besides working in the lab?
What's wrong with working in the lab? Well, I work at the museum, so that's a natural history collection. You can work in the field, conservation work, practical work. This is, of course, from my field. Can be a consultant. A lot of consultancies now look for STEM students, so if that's sort of something you're interested in, I think Big Four opens consulting graduate positions for STEM. What else? There's a lot of things. You can work in policy, government jobs in your home country, probably not Australia. You can be Jasper. Well, technically, a lot of sales, science sales, lab management.
Yeah, the bottom line is I feel like science degrees teaches you scientific thinking, scientific reasoning, and these two things can be applied anywhere you go. It can be used to, selling this pair of shoes to all the way managing a branch of company in a region, right? For example, entire Southeast Asia or entire New Zealand, right? So this type of thinking, this more of a mentality and definitely a skill where science students tend to be more comfortable with, and it's very useful in a lot of the companies. A lot of companies are looking for it. So don't limit yourself to places that are sort of has to be directly connected to science. My job is definitely not very conventional for science students, but even then, you could be even more out of the way. I've seen people who've done chemistry engineering, but ended up in a marketing company. It's more about your mentality, the connections around you and your ambitions on where you want to go.
And I think Monet, the science faculty used to have like a handbook guide on careers, where they show you the majors available in the faculty and then potential career pathways. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's somewhere out there online, I think. There's a handbook careers guide for the Faculty of Science. Maybe try Googling something along those lines.
Yep, cool, awesome. For the next two questions, I might combine them together and ask you because it is related to the question that you answered before as well. So where can I find a place to work from website? And another one is, what is the best way to start looking for jobs?
LinkedIn, seek.com, a lot of internet places literally typing job seek in Google. You get multiple ways to do it. Then there are some minor differences, depends on where you are. Australia, you get seek.com. That's usually the hard-on way to get jobs. And then in Singapore, LinkedIn, for example, is the best way to get a job. But then again, for it, apart from this sort of hard, sort of like a digital way looking for job, of course, the absolute best way is definitely through human connection. But yeah.
Yeah, I would say as well, specific organization websites. You can subscribe to the sort of when they have an opportunity and they'll get it sent through your email. So that's what I did back then. So you can put like filters on and then they'll just send you emails directly. Specific to environment, there's NRM jobs, ethical jobs. So they're all websites. I think website is the easiest way, but as Jasper said, just Google science jobs Melbourne, and it'll show you a list of stuff and just.
Exactly. and you really don't want to leave yourself out to any potential opportunity. So I would suggest, you know, subscribe to everything. I subscribe to like 7, 8 of job websites where every week I literally go through every one of them. For the current job I'm in right now, I applied, I think 40 minutes after the job location position was released, and I straight away got an interview the next day, a face-to-face interview that afternoon. So, you know, from my experience, from what I've known, when you apply for a job faster, you tend to get an edge. It's not always the case, but you want to be in a position where no opportunities will escape.
Yeah, that's just one of the jobs I applied for. I think they had to close applications early because there were too many applicants. So definitely that's something you can sort of, you know, keep in mind of as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. For the next question, yeah, so I know we talked about honors, but it is more about whether it is worth to do honors or it is better to jump straight to masters.
I would be honest, I guess this is going back to the previous question. If I can redo something in my uni, I would do masters, not because I think honors is horrible. I think honors is the best thing in the world. However, for PhD scholarships, a lot of it requires a master's degree, and they did not consider honors equivalent to a master's, even though it is completely equivalent. But I'm just saying that from my experience, again, it depends on what you want to get out of it. Sometimes master's teaches you a broader skill. There's coursework in masters. That's something else you have to consider. Even though it's research, it's like 2 years. Honors is just 1 year, and it's purely in an independent research project. So if what you want to get out of honors or masters is the research project, then you can just do honors. It's 1 year, less thing you have to pay for. But again, what are the skills you're looking for before doing these degrees? And yeah, that's sort of how you make the decision.
I agree. Yeah, I would suggest a method. Know roughly where you want to go, then talk to your coordinator, talk to your lecturer, talk to the student service on this exact same question. After telling them roughly where you want to go in the future, have that discussion with them. I think you'll have a much better chance of getting a really valuable direction guidance.
Yeah, and again, if you're hesitating, don't rush into it. It's never too late. You can do it next year. Even, you know, if you don't want to do an honors during lockdown or whatever the future holds for next year, yeah, something you can consider after as well.
Yep, awesome. And the next question is to Jasper specifically. So for Mr. Fern, what is like working as the first responder?
Yeah, thank you for your question. It's definitely the best volunteer experience I've ever had. For me, I've always wanted to discuss, to save lives, right? It's more of a childhood thing. So I want to be a hero, you know, when I was a child. So of course, growing up, step by step, you sort of forget of that feelings you're having. And then you walk in so you start as a first aider in St. John Ambulance, and then you go in and realize, oh, actually, this is something I'm very passionate about, very good at. And I feel I can, you know, snap into action, be really concentrated, focus. And then after I treat a patient, see their smiley face, sort of walk away from me, and I just feel really accomplished. So for me, it's the best experience I've ever had. So I was so into that experience. I remember I did 4 times the hours required for that year, because I was just so hooked up to it. And I learned so much from that experience. I know so many people who've provided me so much knowledge, as well as acknowledgement, as well as guidances. So of course, when you go in, so for me, when I went into that position, I did not go in thinking, hey, I'm going to go to St. John Ambulance. I'm going to get as much skills as possible so I can get a good full-time job. I went in wanting to enjoy the experience. I went in to do something that gives me adrenaline rush, and I stayed because I feel like I can be good at the job, I can be better, I can even lead a team, and I get to know a bunch of people that I just enjoy hanging around with. And then somehow, right, when I started applying for a job, I realized this is something actually that taught me a lot. So not did I just enjoy myself in it, I also learned a lot from it. And that, even though sounds like a coincidence, but it's usually how it happens. you do something you really, really enjoy, and you learn so much from it, it actually connects to a wide variety of job opportunities in the future and really gives you knowledge to yourself that this is something I'm good at, this is something I want to do, and I want to do this forever.
That is lovely. Awesome to know that. Okay, next question. Will science students have high opportunities to work after graduate?
It depends on individual. I would say it's very hard to say to that question for sure. I think there are stats out there that provides insight into this, but I wouldn't bother myself too much about it. It's more of how you make it happen. So I say, don't worry about it. Just follow what other advices we've given prior to this and what other people guides you towards to sort of build yourself, improve yourself better, and then to give yourself that environment where you can get the best job opportunities possible. So I wouldn't say science students put you in a disadvantage or an obvious advantage, but know that there are areas that you will be good at because you studied STEM in university, and there might be areas that you're not that good at, but in which case, don't worry too much about it.
Yeah, exactly as Jasper said. I don't think there's a difference between being a science student and not, aside from the fact that science is great. But other than that, yeah, it's pretty much just the same with every other graduate. It's same job market.
Yeah, that's true. All right, next one. What job can a physiology student do after graduate? Physiology is not really a specialist, not like biochemist, chemists.
Yeah. It's a very realistic question. I say this is something a lot of physiology students worry about. My answer is it's true. It's not biochemics or chemists where you can go directly to a job right after. It is more of a stepping stone if you want to do physiology research in the future. So for physiology, you want to do honor if you want to do research, or masters if you want to further that research. If following exactly physiology scientific study is your choice of future. If that's not something you want to do in the future, then I would say this question is exactly like the question that was asked before. What pathway can science students go to? There's no bottom line to this. You can go to whatever jobs you're interested in, as long as you have the skill, you have the passion. Actually, no, let me rephrase that. You have the passion first. You gotta have that passion, that drive, that thirst to really do that job well, and you show that to your employer. And then the skills that accompany, the basic skill that accompany with it, like ethic in a work environment, etc. And then being able to do teamwork, being able to have basic interpersonal skills that sort of promotes a positive team mindset. So when you have all of that, it doesn't matter if you're a physiology student or a high school graduate, I feel like you will eventually get where you go with the right opportunities at the right time.
Yeah, awesome. All right, next one. How do you prepare for an interview or multiple interviews?
So I actually had 3 interviews in one day at one point. And to me, coincidentally, all 3 were actually quite successful, as they all reached out to me for an offer afterwards. After that 80 rejections, of course. I would say this is when you want to get that energy you had when you were working on your projects like 2 hours before it was due, right? So you want to go out and just really look at the criteria of the job posting, note them down, and practice in your mind or literally in the mirror, in the camera, how you're going to address to this. And there are a lot of cliche questions where you can prepare 3 interviews in one go. Things like, what do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? How would you bring value to this position? Why would I hire you? Why are you standing out compared to others? So a really cliche question you can practice right now before you even go out to find a job postings. Then, so now I'm just telling you briefly, there's a lot of videos by professionals who've done this for 30, 40 years who can give you a really in-depth analysis on what you can do. So I will recommend you to go on YouTube or LinkedIn Learning. I think Monash University provides you free access to LinkedIn Learning, where they really laid out to you in 30, 40 minutes on what you can do. And those videos helped me a lot in preparing interviews. And of course, after that, you also have to know your strengths and weaknesses in an interview. You want to prepare yourself not just before interview, but after as well, to know what you've done right and what you could improve. But of course, I think the worst problem for a lot of people is you tend to become very nervous with the interview. So I would suggest, practice is a good way, as well as embrace your shortcomings and be as honest as possible when it comes to a lot of questions. But of course, being honest sometimes could mean, I'm actually not really good at this. You asked me for 5 years experience, I actually only have one. That's sort of what I mean. But when it comes to sort of mindset, you also want to sort of narrate yourself, your own experience in a way that fits the job posting. Hope I'm making sense. So for me, for example, I was able to make my St. John ambulance work fits to the current position I'm in very, very well. And I was able to sort of transition my internship in that psychological consultation firm into my position as well, even though they actually don't have any clear relevance, but the personal skills it gives me, I sort of could narrate it in a way sort of fits to the positioning I'm sort of applying for. So I realize I said a lot. So 3 things, right? 1 thing, get that tutorial videos, watch them, know what to do. 2nd thing, embrace your shortcomings and know your advantages. And 3rd thing is know your job postings very, very well, the criteria they're asking for.
Yeah, nothing much I can add. Cliche questions, definitely. So at least you have some examples ready. They always ask for some sort of example. When you work with a bad coworker, what do you do? Things like that. Job description. Make sure you sort of know how to respond to each job description. Other than that, I'm not really the type to prepare too much. I like my interviews a bit impromptu. But that depends entirely on you. I do think you have to practice a bit on how you phrase and structure your answers. And I know Monash Career Connect does a lot of interview workshops and interview practice. You probably heard of the STAR technique, which is how you should answer every single interview question. But I think, which is true, like you answer through STAR, but don't make it too rigid, make it more flow naturally, like you are talking to a person, because technically an interview is a conversation between you and the potential employer, so they do just want to hear from you. Actually,
that's a very good advice. Someone has told me that before. You want to be genuine in your interview, because you don't want to pretend to be someone else, being hired and later on realize you actually can't pretend to be the person you were pretending in an interview, and it leads to a very bad reputation and working experience. So you don't want to do that. And then going on to what Audrey said, Audrey and I think are more sort of a conversationist and sort of spontaneous conversationist in an interview where we're quite comfortable with just chatting with you. But if of course you're someone who's not very good at that, which is completely fine, then of course maybe rigidities could help you. So STAR tips, STAR techniques, and then the interview techniques and videos could help you really much.
At least I think with STAR, it helps you organize your thoughts when you're answering the question.
Yeah, true.
For those who don't know those STAR, it's situation, task, action, result. Google interview STAR, it'll come up.
Yeah, STAR is the best way to answer all types, literally.
I answer things with STAR, even though it's not an interview. It's easy to organize your thoughts in that direction.
That's true. All right, next one. I'm trying to apply for jobs right now, but no success so far. Do you have any practical advice other than keep applying on what I could do to up my chances of landing a job?
Okay. I really suggest people to use LinkedIn and follow people online. I think a lot of public accounts gives you a lot of experiences that other people have already had. For example, I did not know that this is a practice that a lot of HR people do have, which is ghosting. So ghosting is a practice that's often frowned upon, but widely practiced. So you go to a candidate where you reject the candidate through automated message, or you don't even tell the candidate you're being rejected, or even maybe after offering them an interview. So this is some practice that's frowned upon but widely practiced. So I would say when you have no success, don't be disappointed by it. Know that a lot of people are in the same position. Know the practice, the trend, sort of in HR field work. For me, every rejections I've had, I've go into my resume and tweak things a little bit. So every 2-3 days, I reopen my documents and really see what I can change. So I say when I started applying for jobs and the last CV I've had are two completely different things. So I would say, keep as long as you're genuinely and wholeheartedly improving yourself, improving your resume, you're not wasting time and you're not, achieving nothing, you're achieving something. So keep changing yourself. Meanwhile, while you're just waiting for an update, you can use your time to upgrade yourself too. So using LinkedIn Learning, learn extra skills that you see on the job postings that you don't have, and then eventually you put that down on your resume. On top of that, also every once in a while you want to do a self-analysis where you think to yourself, hey, is there other experience I've had that could be promoted in this area of work? And then eventually you realize actually there's a lot of things that you might be missing from your life experience that could contribute to this job. So yeah, definitely it's a holistic improvement you have to do.
Yeah, I think totally what Jasper said is correct. While you apply, you can build yourself up with more skills, or even if it's something like mental health first aid, things like that, just mindfulness, because that's important. But other than keep applying to websites, another thing is you can also start reaching out to people in the industry, rather than waiting for an opportunity to come. Maybe you can ask whether they have opportunities. What else can you do? I think, and it's okay to stop applying for a while. I know that sometimes you feel like you need to keep applying, but it's okay to take a step back and have some time for yourself and have fun and socialize with your friends before you start applying again. Because I remember I was talking to friends when we were in this job finding process. Finding a job is a full-time job. It's really tough. And yeah, really, as Jasper said, just check your CV and make use of career consultants at Monash, because I know you can get access to them even a year after graduation. Help them, make them check your CV, send them job descriptions, and ask them for feedback. And you can also ask feedback from some companies. I know, like if you've reached at least, I think, interview stage and they rejected you, you can always ask, thank you for the opportunity, even though I didn't get the job. Do you have any feedback for me? So you know where you can sort of go next to improve yourself, I guess.
That actually remind me of something. I think a lot of HR people, when headhunting, they are expecting a bottom standard of job etiquette. So that shows the moment you join our company, the most we're gonna do is to train you professionally in terms of your role and what you need to learn to succeed in your role. I don't need to teach you how to be a professional adult in a working cultural environment. So you want to demonstrate that too. So to do that, best way to do it is to learn about work cultural in Seek.com or LinkedIn or other channel where they'll give you specific details on what to do with it. And I think this question could also help us extend to two other questions about being resilient and keeping yourself motivated after rejection. So for me personally, I definitely had a downtime after being rejected, especially being ghosted. So that's something I really, really hated at the time. I remember.
No, yeah, I agree. It's so annoying. Yeah. I'd rather you reject me than just hang me.
Best thing, yeah. I remember being promised an interview 2 days later, then realized the person never sent me any link or to the interview, to the online interview. And then when I reached out to check for this information, I was never replied to. So this is something, apart from being rejected, this is definitely something that puts me a little depressed at the time. So this is something, actually, we should see this as a good opportunity to train yourself when work does not go in your way. Go the way you want it to be. Apart from that, right? I think Audrey gave a really good suggestion in that area. I've also heard this online. You could do job hunting as if it's a full-time job. So do it from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. with frequent breaks in between. Prepare yourself, apply for everything you're interested in, and just see it sort of in a non-way that you're just doing a job. Yep. And then, of course, when interviews surface, you want to be as prepared and as passionate as you can. But also know that there's a lot of people like you. There's a lot of times it's actually the companies that doesn't feel like they're the right fit for you. I know this sounds a little bit arrogant, but actually a lot of HR people I've talked to, some of their concern is they realize, actually, I don't think your expectation, your skills is something we can fit towards you, because it's not just you applying for a job, they are also trying to get you in, right? So actually the best way to put it, it's not just them interviewing you, you are also in turn interviewing them, right? So know, and then apart from that, of course, know your worth, really understand what your advantages is, and have that confidence in you that this worth will it will be useful in other areas, in some areas, and your time will come, as long as you genuinely, wholeheartedly, using this downtime or plateau time to improve yourself. And then also, I think this is a bit of a too basic of a suggestion, but know that having, although psychological safety and confidence is very, very important, know that you can't be in that zone forever, and then that zone does not help you to get where you want to be. So when time is right, pick yourself up and then get going. And then just actively try to improve yourself through the channels that we've suggested. And I definitely have confidence that eventually you will be where you want to be. But then again, I said psychological safety cannot trap you. When you need that mental break in between, give yourself that freedom to have a rest. It's just like full-time job, Saturday, Sunday, give it a rest. Be at home, watch some Netflix. Don't think about it at all. Yeah. So really have that environment that fits you and carries you.
Yeah, definitely take time for yourself. It took me almost 6 months to get my job, at least after graduation, and it takes longer for some people. Some people go directly. Everyone has their own pace. You don't have to rush into it. Take time for yourself, really, especially with all this COVID situation. It's a very stressful situation for whoever you are, wherever you are. So especially international students. So definitely, don't feel discouraged. And remember, it's tough for you, and it's tough for companies as well, because they're people. They're people too.
Yeah. So you see, Audrey and me, we've given you our perspectives and insights. When you go on LinkedIn or those other job market social programs, you can see a lot of other people's perspectives and insights to really give you impression of how work environment is like, or how job market is like. And their experience, some of them are quite unique. Some of them represents a big portion of people. And that really also tells you that, don't worry, a lot of people are in the same scenario. It's not just because you're somehow not the right fit or somehow not good enough. It's definitely not the case. So yeah, don't worry about it. There are community out there that are just like you. And then they've all eventually got where they want to be with the effort they put in. So yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks a lot. Because I was about to ask those two questions, and I understand that I think especially now during the global pandemic, it's quite common that we have experience of like getting rejected, and it might be something that like every international students might as well. So yeah, really important to stay resilient, keep motivated, and some of the tips Jasper and Audrey talk to us, like keep refining the resume, look for online learning opportunities, definitely. So next question, are there any specific qualifications required for international students working in Australia other than a visa?
I'm not sure what exactly you mean by specific qualifications.
Yeah.
Um,
If you're talking about visa status, if you're a student, you can only work for 40 hours per fortnight. And during holiday, there's no hour limits. But if you're talking about being a graduate, then yeah, you have to apply for a bridging visa or a work visa. They are so the Australian government website actually has a pretty clear layout on all of this, and there are also tutorials online that you can watch for this. So this is something I actually did a lot of study on too. But when I thought I was going to stay in Melbourne before the pandemic, so yeah.
yeah, I was on the temporary graduate visa before this, because now I'm a student again. But yeah, temporary graduate, or some companies would sponsor you, and I think that will be a different visa. But definitely, as Lisa and Hannah, has said in the presentation, migration agent, usually free consultation for the beginning, and they'll know what to say. Your company will usually know what to say as well. They'll probably ask like what visa you're planning to get, and then you can just say, "Oh, I'm planning to get."
So yeah, there's no general qualification for you to be allowed to work in Australia. It all depends on specific cases. But of course, if you want to work as a bartender, there's a qualification for that you have to go through. So it depends on specifically what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Next one, would you recommend starting a master degree given the lack of jobs due to COVID-19? I think it's specific about like the current climate now.
Oh, I don't know. I can't give you a specific answer to that, because first I didn't do a master. Second, I don't know what the correlation is between doing a master degree and no jobs. I guess you're trying to say if you can't get a job, whether you should do a master's instead. And the answer, I think Jasper would agree, it depends on what you want to do. I do think a master's degree is good if you're considering changing pathways, maybe. If you suddenly, from a science degree, you want to go into, I don't know, IT or education, and maybe then you need that master degree so you can apply for those jobs. Maybe, but I'll be honest, because now I'm not really in touch with the job market right now, because I'm just a lowly PhD candidate. So
yeah. I'm definitely with Audrey in the area of it has to be specifically what you want. But what I can tell you is, using myself as an example. So when I was in July, what my plan was going forward in the pandemic. So my plan was this. In the next 6 months 6 to 8 months, if I'm unable to get a full-time job in the company that I'm interested in, then I am going to do a master degree in either MBA or in a professional technical degree like audiologist or speech therapy related to physiology, which then could help me to give me an edge over
like to apply for more jobs.
Yeah, to get a job that are more technical, that in the job market, in Singapore job market, which is the place I'm in, sort of it's easier to find a job that way. And also it is a job that I'm more interested in, because I'm seeing patient, I'm talking to patient, I'm giving treatment, right? So that was the plan at the time. So I would say to you, if financial problem is not a problem and time is not of urgency, and then do a master degree that you're interested in, or do a master, and if that degree you're interested in also has a lot of direct entrance to jobs in the job market you're in, then I'd say why not. It's definitely one of the ways to improve yourself, to be prepared for a full-time job.
Yeah, do consider that you need to do the masters during COVID as well. So maybe it's depends on what skills you want to build in.
Yeah, Awesome. I think that's all the questions for tonight. Thank you so much, Jasper and Audrey. It is really inspiring and beneficial for me, like to listen to all your advice and experiences, and I'm sure it's the same for the other international students as well. So thank you
Oh.
so much. Really
No,
appreciate
thank you for all the
Thank you.
questions. That's a lot of
Yeah.
good questions.
Yeah,
Thank-
and thank you, Lisa, for hosting this. It's
Yeah.
I think, a very good initiative, especially in a very uncertain time. It's something that's very important to support students with.
Exactly. Hopefully that can support international students now in the current climate. So yeah, thanks to all the attendees who attend the session today. And we'll give a LinkedIn acknowledgement maybe in the next week to Jasper and Audrey, if that's okay for you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you for your time again. And take care, everyone. Have a lovely night.